This is Access Ann Arbor.
Welcome. I'm Shannon Novera, Program Manager, Washtenaw Success by Six Great Start Collaborative. And today we have two guests who are experts in the early childhood fields. One is Margie Long, Director of Washtenaw Success by Six Great Start Collaborative. And the other is Alan Oman, Early Childhood Director at Washtenaw Intermediate School District. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
And we'll start with you, Margie. Can you give us a little information about your background and the great work that Success by Six Great Start Collaborative is doing in our community?
Thanks, Shannon. It's wonderful to have the opportunity to talk about the importance of early childhood. We started Success by Six Great Start Collaborative about 7 years ago because of the growing evidence of how important early childhood time period is in a child's life. And also, unfortunately, because of the growing evidence that there are some kids who don't have the opportunity to really learn at that early age to the extent that they're ready to start kindergarten and ready to be successful. We have over 40 organizations in our collaborative, and we work with a variety of organizations. And sometimes it's a little difficult to understand what a collaborative does. We do provide some direct services, but also we gather research about what's going on in the community. We talk to professionals, and we talk, most importantly, to parents to find out what their needs are and where the gaps in services are. And then we work with all of our organizations to try to find solutions to those gaps.
So you mentioned that you work with different organizations in our community. Can you give us some examples of who those organizations are?
Yes, we're very lucky that we have the support of 4 local funding partners, and they are United Way of Washtenaw County, Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation, Washtenaw County Government, and Washtenaw Intermediate School District. We work on all aspects of a child's life, from physical health, mental health, parenting and parent education, as well as family support, and all of those areas we have different organizations that support them. We work with Head Start, we work with private preschools, and we even work with the Washtenaw Sheriff's Department.
Great, there's a wide range of partners, I'd say. And can you give us an idea of what some of the initiatives are that Success by Six Great Start Collaborative takes on?
Well, right now we have some services that we're doing. We work with First Steps. We support First Steps programs. And First Steps is actually a program that supports young families. It's classes, play and learn programs with families, with parents and their young children. And it also supports educators to come into the home and do parent education and work with the child and the parent right in their own home. We've recently started a program that's called the Ages and Stages Developmental Questionnaire, and that's online, and it's on our website at WashtenawSuccessBy6.org. And a parent can go onto our website and put in the birth date of their child and do the questionnaire, answer a few questions about their child, and get some information back about how their child's doing developmentally, and even some suggestions on how to foster those developmental areas. We're also working across our collaborative on things like oral health and trying to make sure that there are dentists available for young families.
What about Touch a Truck? Everyone's favorite.
Touch a Truck, yes. We every year, this will be, I believe, the 5th year of Touch a Truck. It'll be this spring in May, and it's a time where we bring trucks and buses and ambulances and bring them all together so that kids can climb on them and learn about how to sit on a school bus. And then we also have resources for parents at the same time. So it's a fun day. It's free for everybody.
Great. Thanks, Margie. And I don't want to forget, we have another guest here as well. Alan, can you give us a little information about your background and your role at the Washtenaw ISD?
Sure. Well, as you said earlier, I'm the Director of Early Childhood Programs. So I'm part of a new department at Washtenaw Intermediate School District, the Early Childhood Department. I joined the ISD in Washtenaw last July, moving from the Intermediate School District in Midland County. The reason for the creation of the new department is a new focus and emphasis on early childhood education and development, which aligns with a new shift in the same kind of focus at the state level. Traditionally, we've looked at the educational system as a K-12 or a kindergarten through grade 12 structure. And through the leadership of the Michigan Department of Education and the intermediate school districts in the state, we're now shifting to a P20 model, which stands for prenatal through 20, or as some people refer to it, a birth through career model.
Excellent. So you mentioned that there are several early childhood programs at the ISD. Can you talk to us a little bit about those programs and what they are?
Sure. So within the realm of our department, we have a variety of federally funded and state-funded initiatives and programs, ranging from the Early On program, the Early On system, which is a county-wide support system for families with children from birth to age 3. We have Great Parents, Great Start, which actually funds a number of the home visiting and parent education programs, including First Steps Washtenaw, as Margie was talking about. We have Good Start, which is actually a support system for childcare providers in the community. Our Good Start staff will provide intervention support for providers who have children who may have special needs. They'll contact Good Start and we can do a developmental evaluation and provide some resources and perhaps guidance to the provider so the child can be successful in the child care environment. And then last but certainly not least, we administer the Great Start Readiness Program, which is the state preschool program in the state of Michigan.
Well, that's great, and your plate's very full too then. And I know as the parent of young children that it can be really confusing navigating, through all the different services that are available. So why don't we take a look at some that are available for the youngest children? And Margie, you mentioned First Steps. And Alan, I think you mentioned Early On. Can you tell us a little more about Early On and how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. Early On is actually the name for Michigan's system for early intervention services for children from birth to age 3. It's a very family-focused and parent-friendly system. If a parent, for example, was concerned about their child having a delay in something like speech, they can contact the Early On system in their community in Washtenaw County and ask for a coordinator to come out to do an evaluation. It's very easy to actually request a referral. They can contact the state toll-free phone number, which is 1-800-EARLY-ON, or they can make an online referral through the state website, which is 1-800-EARLYON.org. Once we receive the referral, a local coordinator affiliated with the local school district will contact the parent. And they can come out and do a developmental assessment with the child. It can be done in the parent's home. And if there is a determination that there may be a developmental delay, then the child could qualify for additional services such as speech therapy or medical services. The idea behind the system is actually to provide early intervention so that the child has the chance to catch up developmentally and be ready for school once they reach that age. The whole concept behind the system is for parents to not worry but not wait.
Right. And they'll actually come to your house.
Correct.
For that. I mean, that is so incredibly convenient, especially when you have young children. So, Margie, we can see how a young child is growing and changing and developing on the outside physically as they grow those first few years, but so much is going on the inside that we can't see. And it sounds like new research is showing us that that is some really important stuff too. Can you talk a little bit about those insights?
Sure. It used to be that we thought a child's brain developed over time, sort of in a linear way. Now we know from brain research that actually those first 4 and 5 years are the most important time in terms of brain development. Actually, by the time a child is 4, 80% of their brain is developed. And when I say their brain is developed, basically there's the brain synapses, which is really the pathway, and all the time that a child is learning, those pathways and those synapses are growing and developing. In a child who doesn't have the opportunity to do that kind of rapid growing, where they haven't maybe had a lot of interaction with adults, their brain development, those synapses will not be developed as strongly. So it's so critical that we support children in those first few years so that by the time they're ready to start school, they really have the skills and to really be successful.
And parents play an important role in that too.
Absolutely. We must think of parents as the child's most important and first teacher or educator. So as Margie said, we've traditionally sort of thought of the educational system kicking in at kindergarten, and that the formal education process starting then at age 5. But we really do need to rechange our thinking in terms of taking advantage of the fact that the brain is developing, and it's a prime opportunity for a child to learn in those first 5 years. And the parent can play an incredibly important role in that. It doesn't necessarily mean that the parent has to engage in a formal process, but it's really important that the parent takes advantage of creating learning experiences and social engagement with the child from the time they come home from the hospital. Things such as reading to their child, taking advantage of just day-to-day activities such as mealtime and bath time to interact. An example could be a trip to the grocery store. Instead of just focusing on what's in the grocery list and the child riding along in the cart, you can turn that into an opportunity to learn about the colors and the shapes and the textures of the things that you're seeing and picking up in the grocery store. The other thing I think that's really something that we want to focus on, or parents want to focus on, is developing those vocabulary and early reading skills. We now know through the research that's been done in the last decade or so that even children as young as 3 years of age will, there are huge gaps in their vocabulary depending on the home experience that they've had. So a child who is read to on a daily basis and a child who interacts with other adults in the household will have a much better success rate when they get to school. We know that by the time the child hits 36 months or their 3rd birthday, some children who have had those positive experiences can have twice the vocabulary as a child who doesn't. And that's 2 years before the start of kindergarten. I think the other thing that I think we want to share with parents is the idea of exposure to television in the early years. Even those educational shows for young children don't provide the same kind of positive face time as sitting down and reading with your child or interacting. Mm-hmm. It's just not an interactive process, and doesn't provide the same level of social development that you would get from just being with your child down on the floor and reading and playing.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that this doesn't have to be anything complex or expensive with certain toys.
Correct.
It's just getting down on the floor, playing with your child, reading to your child, having that interaction. So this seems like a good time to show a short video that we have that features one of the Success by 6 Great Start Collaborative's parent educators. Her name is Althea Wilson, and Althea teaches First Steps classes. First Steps, again, is for parents and their children aged 0 to 3, and they're funded. Those classes are funded by Success by 6 Great Start Collaborative and also the local school districts, and they use a highly effective model called Parents as Teachers. So now we'll roll that video.
Hello, my name is Althea Wilson, and I'm the Parents as Teachers parent educator for the First Steps Washtenaw program in Eastern Washtenaw County. Prior to being the parent educator with First Steps Washtenaw, I was a parent in the program with my 3 daughters. So I can tell you firsthand the benefits and impact the program had on my daughter's development. When I started the program with my oldest daughter, who's now 13, she was 2 years old. And I didn't think I was going to learn anything from the program, and I wasn't sure that she was going to learn anything because I was teaching her at home, and I thought that she knew everything that a 2-year-old could know, and then some. But after a short time within the program, I realized that I was expecting too much from her. My expectations were inappropriate, and it was causing her self-esteem to suffer. So I'm really grateful that I was able to get that information early on so I could alter my behavior to help my daughter in a more positive way. After we left the program, because we aged out, I had the opportunity to be trained as a Parents as Teachers educator, and then be the facilitator of the program and roll around Ypsilanti and Lincoln. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do that because now I can share what I've learned from being a parent in the program and what I've learned through my training with parents as teachers, and share this with other parents to help them help their children develop and be successful and ready to start kindergarten. The First Steps program is one of many programs that are available to support early childhood development. Within our program, home visiting is a large piece of what we offer to families, and when I was a parent in the program myself, I was skeptical about having someone come into my home, but I realized that that wasn't for me, that was for my daughter. And after having participated with the home visit, I realized how much she really enjoyed having her teacher come to the home, and how sharing that information, her developmental information specific to her one-on-one with me, was so beneficial to me to understanding where she was developmentally and how I could help her appropriately. So I really encourage parents within the program to participate in our home visiting piece. We have play and learn groups, we have field trips, we have parent meetings. It's just a really wonderful time for you to carve out of your day to spend with your child, and it's just their time and your time, and it's just time priceless. You really can't get it back. The philosophy of parents as teachers is that parents are their child's first and most influential teachers, and really the more that parents grab a hold of that and are empowered by knowing that, you know, the more helpful they can be and supportive to their children. One organization that I'm involved with is the Great Start Parent Coalition. It's an advocacy organization for parents to come together and advocate for early childhood development programs in our community. No one knows your child better than you do. You are the expert. Get involved any way you can, learn as much as you can, and be your child's best advocate.
Thanks. If you'd like more information about any of the First Steps programs in our school districts, just visit our website. Again, that's washtenaw.successby6.org. So Margie, you know, for a long time, people kind of thought of preschool as optional, a place to send kids to kind of color, learn their ABCs, but new research is showing that really the impact of a preschool experience is much more far-reaching than we used to think, and really goes a long way toward preparing kids for kindergarten. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to say that preschool is important for all children. It helps kids not necessarily learn those facts about colors, and those are the kinds of things that we parents can teach kids at home, but it's the kind of social interaction, the playing with other kids, the being independent, putting on your own jacket. Those are the kinds of things that all kids can learn. But then it also has a special impact for those kids who come from families that are more vulnerable, who haven't been able to have the kinds of experiences that some other kids have had. A recent study that was done, that was released by the High Scope Foundation, where they studied preschool kids for the entire time they were in school. They started when they were 4 and took a group of kids in the Great Start Readiness program and a group of children that were not in the program. And then they studied them all the way until they graduated from high school. And what they saw was a pretty dramatic impact from that 1 year of preschool. That basically the children who had been in the preschool program were much more likely to graduate from high school and graduate on time, and much less likely to have to repeat a grade. So that's the kind of impact that we can have that could really help our kids. And also, nowadays, what we remember as being kindergarten is very different than it was when we were young. There is a lot of academic learning that goes on in kindergarten.
Great. Well, that impact is very important. And Alan, I know you feel strongly about the return on investment for funding early childhood programs. Can you explain to us how funding these programs actually can help save taxpayers' money down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all convinced of the benefit of preschool programs from the benefit of the child and the family who's having the experience. But another study, in fact, a long-term study that has been conducted over the last 50 years, again through the High Scope Foundation, and took place here in Washtenaw County in Ypsilanti, known as the Perry Preschool Project, has shown that the long-term impact of a high quality, and I have to emphasize a high quality preschool experience can have a major cost savings both educationally and from a societal point of view. That study took a group of high-risk children from a low-income community and also evaluated a peer group of children who didn't have the same experience but came from very similar backgrounds in the same community. Over the course of the children's educational experience in their schooling, what was found was the children who had participated in the preschool experience were far more likely to graduate on time, far more likely to not require grade retention or special education services in their peer group. And a Nobel Prize-winning economist, Dr. James Heckman, looks at the data that the HighScope Foundation came up with, and he determined that the savings for every dollar that was invested in that preschool experience was about $7 to the school system. Looking at the lifetime of the individuals who've been in the program, because the program's been in effect now for 50 years, we can see that there are actually life successes as well for those children who graduated. They're far more likely to go on to college. They're far more likely to own their own home or be successful in terms of being a taxpayer. And probably most importantly, they're far less likely to actually be engaged in the criminal justice system than the peer group that didn't have the same experience. And so over the lifetime of the individual, Dr. Heckman's been able to determine that the savings to society is about $17 or an additional $10 to the educational savings.
Wow. Well, along those lines, we have another short video we'd like to share that kind of explains this return on investment. That video really makes you stop and think. I just want to make sure I have this straight. So for every dollar invested in early childhood education, it saves schools $7, and overall, a dollar investment is a $17 savings for taxpayers.
Correct. A quality early childhood
Quality,
experience.
that's right. That's important. So, Alan, you said that one of your responsibilities is the state-funded Great Start Readiness Program. Can you explain to us how that program works?
Right. So in Michigan, the Great Start Readiness Program is a preschool program for 4-year-olds. In Washtenaw County, we're serving about 500 children in the program right now. The program is available in every single one of our 10 school districts, and as well as through some community-based organizations such as Perry Nursery School, Champions for Children, and even at Eastern Michigan University. So the program also is complemented by the Head Start program, which is federally funded, and that serves about another 500 children. The challenge is that we have probably 1,500 children in the county who would be eligible for one of those programs. So we're short funding for about 500 children who could participate.
But I understand there's a lot going on in Lansing, a lot of talk about trying to fund this program even more. Margie, can you speak to that?
Yes, this summer, the Center for Michigan did a study of the availability for children to be in the Great Start Readiness Program, and they found that there were probably 30,000 four-year-olds in Michigan who were not able to get access to the program because there wasn't enough funding for teachers and classrooms. Luckily, we are seeing more and more policymakers supporting early childhood. In fact, just today, Governor Snyder released his budget for the next year, and he has included in that budget an additional $65 million for early childhood. So that'll make the program more accessible to more kids and possibly also help us with some other aspects of the program also. And Senator Roger Kahn, who's the Appropriations Committee Chair in the Senate, has said that he is determined to get an additional $140 million for early childhood programs, which will fully fund the Great Start Readiness Program for all four-year-olds in Michigan and help us with some 0 to 3 programs and really make our early childhood program in Michigan a stellar program across the country.
So that's really good news.
That's fabulous news.
So if someone at home is watching this and they have a child who they think may qualify, a young child, for either the Great Start Readiness Program or perhaps Head Start, how can they find out? Who should they contact?
Well, there's a couple of ways they can contact the programs. As I said, every school district in the county has at least a Great Start Readiness Program. Some also operate Head Start classrooms, so they can contact their local school district directly to inquire about information on enrollment, or they can contact us at Washtenaw Intermediate School District, and we can provide them with a list of local classrooms in their community.
Excellent. And Margie, when we watched Althea's video, she mentioned the Great Start Parent Coalition. So if there's anyone who's listening who feels passionately about this and wants to become more involved, how can they sign up for that?
Well, the Parent Coalition is a great program for parents to not only learn about education programs, to come to workshops, to help us get involved help us really make an impact on early childhood by asking them about the information that's important to them. And it also helps us to have them educate policymakers. So they could go to our website again at washtenaw.successby6.org.
That sounds great. Well, I want to thank both of you for joining us. This has been a great conversation about the importance of early childhood education and a lot of great things really going on in our community. That's good to know. Again, you can always go to our website. We try to keep it filled with lots of great information and resources for families. Washtenaw.successby6.org. You can go there for more information about the upcoming Touch a Truck event, which will be in May.
That's right.
And we'll have a more specific date and location coming soon. And when you go to our website too, remember that if you're the parent of a child between 2 months and 5.5 years, you have the opportunity to take a free online developmental screener for your child. And that's a great experience for parents to have, to learn about their child's development. And of course, that's free to all residents of Washtenaw County. So thanks again. We're glad that you could join us.